So are you requesting will you be requesting specific amounts of money besides the $2.7 billion that we're spending in this year to start the funding on the blended approach? Or are we talking about we're spending the money in the Central Valley, the next phase would be the blended approach as we complete the EIRs? I'm just not sure how much of the bonds we're going to be spending and in the immediate. I've heard numbers that have been thrown out. I would really, and I'm not saying you know exactly because we haven't seen the plan, but how much money are we really talking about that you'll be requesting, or basically in the near future?
Well, I think I know this with some precision, Senator. You're correct. The anticipation is that the governor would request $2.7 billion of the Prop 1A bond money. There is $3.3 billion of federal money. I believe what was the case was that originally that was a $2.7 billion number, but as governors of other states gave back the dollars, they came to us. And so there's more federal money right now than matching state money, but we would be asking for $2.7 billion in this cycle. With respect to the two MOUs, the timing of that request, and I want to be very clear, only you get to determine whether or not that money is appropriated. We can only ask you on behalf of our MOU partners. But our commitment is to do that, and the gating function
To do that this year?
No, sir. We do not anticipate that this year for two reasons. One is that in Southern California, well, assuming that our board adopts...
Excuse me, Mr. Richard, I just want to make sure we're all having the same conversation. You are anticipating asking for the $2.7 billion in the budget year 2012-2013.
That's correct, Mr. Chairman.
And it's the funding for the, quote, bookends that you're not anticipating asking for in 2012-13, just to be clear.
That is also precisely correct. And in terms of when we would be asking for that, it's really a question of how those agreements come together. In Southern California, what will happen is that the Southern California signatories will come together themselves and determine what are the priority projects. And not all of those will be funded through the bonds. Some of them may be funded by asking us to make application to the federal government for any available dollars that come through a high-speed rail program. So some portion of that $1 billion at some point in the future will be identified for specific projects in Southern California. We'll be following the lead of our MOU partners in Southern California as they cull their list and put those projects together.
Can you have any idea, are we now possibly talking about 5 to 10 years before you come back for that money?
Oh, no, I think it'll be much earlier than that. I think that there's two reasons. One, I hope it's earlier than that because I think we saw this on the infrastructure bonds and other things where the public became frustrated that bond monies were just sitting there and not being put to use employing people. The buying power diminishes every year that it doesn't go forward. We have to balance that. You have to balance that against, of course, the impacts on debt service repayment and the other choices that you have to make. But having said that, there are high priority projects that are very much needed in Southern California. The Regional Interconnection Project, upgrades from Metrolink up to Palmdale. We will follow their lead, but I think that there's a very strong appetite for those dollars, and as soon as those projects are identified and they ask us to, we'll be prepared to come back to you, and we'll stay in close communication with you and your staffs about that. In Northern California, we have not yet we don't have the MOU document in front of us, except in kind of a vague draft. We expect to come together pretty quickly with MTC on that, and that will really be a question of how quickly that project can be made ready for an application, but I don't see it happening this year. I will say that there are a number of issues that I think Caltrain has to work through in terms of its environmental clearances and other things. We want to work very closely with them on that. We would like to see those upgrades happen as soon as possible.
The other